So, today we are going over my vintage bike purchasing, whatever. Yeah, I'll show you the things I'm looking at when I buy a vintage bike, which I do on my vintage Hercules bike that I already own. So, first of all, the most important thing when you buy a bike is the frame. This one here got a steel frame, which you can see on those little rust spots here, which are no big deal. But the most important thing you want to look of on a steel frame bike like this is, are there any holes, rust holes? If the frame is rusted through on some spots, that's a big problem. The most likely spot where this happens is down here, near the luggage rack and down here. This happens when there is for a long time no saddle attached and water goes into this pipe and seeps down there, which then also destroys the bearings. So, how to check which type of frame you have? First of all, you can bring a magnet, because steel is magnetic. The other types are aluminium and magnesium. Aluminium frames could pose a problem because steel bends and aluminium breaks. So if it is old, it may snap on you without warning. So take a good look, especially in this area here, where there's a lot of stress attached, if there are any cracks or something to see. Same poses for here and for here. Those are the stress points for an aluminium frame. But still, if you have an aluminium fork, it could break here. Yeah, aluminium, not my first choice. And the third category of vintage bikes is magnesium. If you consider early 80s bikes to be vintage, which I don't. 80s are not so long ago. Yeah, magnesium has a big problem. As soon as the oxide layer on the outside gets destroyed, it starts to crumble and you can't do anything about it. It will turn into some white powder after a while. So this is the only type of frame you can't really fix. You can weld aluminium, you can weld steel, but there's not much you can do with magnesium. But still, if it is in good shape and you keep it in good shape, it should last. Okay, now let's go to the technical details. Shifter. This one got a 3-speed shifter, as most vintage bikes have. You check it by simply shifting it and at the same time looking at the shifter knob. If the cable moves, it works. You can also directly, if the wire should be rusted in place, just pull this out. Focus camera, please. Here. Next thing is the chain and the ambulance. Nice. That's a problem in the city. If the chain is rusted, this is no big problem. Old bikes often have a rusty chain, and unlike mountain bikes, the chain is very unlikely to snap. There's not the kind of force applied to them. So, in case you want to check if the chain is extremely worn out, you bend it to the side. The more it flexes to the side, let's do it here, the more it's worn out. This one here is still perfect for a vintage bike. Yeah. Next thing you wanna check, and this is very important, all the bearings. Some old vintage bikes, pre-war bikes, give you little lubrication points, like on here and in the middle of each wheel. This here is from the 70s, so it doesn't have this anymore. Bikes have 5 main bearings: rear wheel, crankset, front wheel, and here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, take that back. It's 4 main bearings. Yeah. This one you check just by simply rattling around and turning the wheel. If it is fine and doesn't have play or anything, you have no problems. You can untie this nut here and put some grease in it, doesn't harm. Done. The wheel you check by simply lifting the bike up, seeing if the wheel spins freely. Same for the back wheel. The one in the middle, you gotta check a bit more. You gotta check if it has play by wiggling it up and down. This one has minimal, and by wiggling on the pedal. This shows me it can deserve a bit more oil, grease in this kind, but it is in perfect shape. So you see, even a bike that looks like it is out of the junkyard, with all the faded paint and so, can technically be absolutely fine. Yeah, Hercules and a raised plus Xena on it. So yeah, if you get this reference, you're a 90s kid or a nerd. Next thing to check is the luggage rack. For me, one of the most important things on a bike ever. They often break here on this attachment point, where all the force is put on it. Check if all the bolts are in it and it is fairly mounted. Here, for example, that's a good example. I have to tighten this nut. It has wiggled loose over the time. But this is just a matter of a nut. Sometimes it's missing. This side is fixed. You can also check if the pedals are still fine. On vintage bikes they are usually fine. See if the kickstand is intact. It should stand up right. Great. Next, and a very important point, is brakes. Vintage bikes do have two types of brakes. You have your scooter brake, which is attached back here. Which you activate by pushing the pedal backwards, locking the wheel in place. Very effective. But if your chain falls out, you're off for a ride. Therefore, you got your front brake. This one here is cast aluminium. I had snapped one of those. I simply test them by pushing the lever. You can adjust them by untying this nut and pushing the wire a bit more down or more up. Brake pads are here and they are here to here. They are very reliable and work for decades. Yeah, seriously. If you use it daily, you have to change them once every 10 years or so. Then you pet your little teddy bear and go up to lighting. This is a vintage bike. You got a dynamo. You engage it this way, pull it back and let it snap in. If it is on the front wheel, you may need some help by checking it on the rear side, because you can't really look behind, or you have a mirror with you, or you put it against the wall and turn it. I just will now lift up the wheel and turn it. So yeah, that's best I can do with the camera. Next thing are the least important things, like the tires. Look for cracks on the sidewall. Especially old tires seem to rip open between white wall and rubber part. But that's not really a thing, because I paid 11 bucks for this tire here and it works fine. So no concern here. The saddle. yeah, pull the cover up and look under it if it is intact. Yeah, handlebars should be there but can be replaced. There was playing around it. Push, go back. Okay, Bike Advice with a Wasp-Attack, that's new. But yeah, otherwise, chain guard is often missing on vintage bikes. I did a video on how to make a replacement bolt like this. But that's it. Now you know what I know about buying a vintage bike. Hope you've enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, donate, whatever.